Well, I appreciate you thinking that I've tackled everything early learning in the last 6 years. I think maybe it might be seven now if I am counting my session count right, but I've had a lot of partners along the way. Your good friend Vansalupis is one of them, Dana Tripolsi, and the list goes on and on. Our Representative McFarland has joined the team. Senator Coladiud, the speaker has been very supportive. I mean, and the list, and we've just really grown this universe of people who care about this issue. And really, President Pasadomo was the first, I think my first early learning bill, I think I worked on with her to set up the work group after my first year to really kind of get all of the folks talking about early learning. And what drives my passion is that I know what a difference quality early learning makes in the development and success of a young child. And when you see their potential for what it is at such a young age, you really realize that everything that we work to fix on the back end as government, everything that we work to make better for society really stems from the amazing potential in those early years. And whether or not that's unlocked by a parent or by an early childhood educator, both by that partnership. I think that if a child is in childcare, I think that that's really where, I just see such potential, and that brain development is so critical to the future success of our children. That we need to take that time period seriously. And I think that I've just worked really hard to make that case to my colleagues, because I think that every dollar we invest, every thoughtful policy conversation we have in order to get it right, really the return on that investment to society is so significant that it's worth spending the time here. So unfinished business in the early learning space is it could be considered a big tent to fall under. I think every year when I finish the legislative session, and when we finish and we look at what we have accomplished and how meaningful it is, I think, okay, I'm good. We're done here in early learning. And the thing is that we're not, just like we're not ever done in K-12 education, we're not ever done in higher education. There's always work to be done. And, really what I would love to see is full implementation of some of the policies that I have championed over the last number of years, because until there's full implementation of 419 of, I think it was SB 2524 about the statewide reimbursement rates, until there's full implementation, we can't really see the benefits and the fruits of what that comprehensive policy looks like for parents and for families. And so, there was a dashboard and a childcare finder of sorts in 419 that I think will be an absolute game changer for parents who seek to find the right fit for their child, and also who want information on the type of provider that they might put their child with. And so I'm optimistic that that's moving forward, really with part of the HB1 package and school choice, and people realizing that, true competition is understanding all of the options that are available for children. So to think that we could be included as childcare with K-12 schools, and parents can go to one place and find that perfect place for their child to attend, and know how well they've done on their class assessment or what type of curriculum they might be using, I think will really empower parents in such a huge way that we just haven't had before. So I look forward to seeing that. I think there were some, last year I had SB 990, and I worked on that bill with Representative McFarland in the House. And the bill ultimately didn't pass last year. And I think that there are components of it that, we're definitely going to come back, and we're going to continue to work on some things that are really important to me there. It's the limitation on screen time for young children. And, we don't have a true understanding. And I saw there's a lot of concern about what this looked like when we talked about it last year. And I think that it's our job to do the hard work and come up with the right policy solution, because we know that we see the effects of screen addiction in adults and young adults and anybody with a phone. And we know that, with the rate at which brain development happens with young children, that's going to interfere with that brain development. And we don't want to do that in any way. And so I think we need to be more thoughtful about screen time. We also had some things in there in the bill last year about emergent literacy courses, maybe being completed for VPK instructors after employment has begun, because it's a real barrier for teachers getting into the classroom, and not just an open-ended window, but within a specified time frame. Is that 30 days? Is it 45 days? Just some real practical things to kind of help with workforce. I do think that, a couple years ago, we talked about statewide rates for school readiness, for reimbursement rates. And it is really my hope that we figure that out, because I know that there is such desire to increase the eligibility threshold for our school readiness program. And I hear it from probably a lot of the people that are participating in this conference, in this conversation. But the reality is that we don't serve 100% of the currently eligible population. And we know that our reimbursement rates, they're disparate from area to area. They don't always take into account, and there's nothing that requires them to take into account real cost of care, just except for the law that we passed a couple years ago, which if we implemented that fully and had statewide reimbursement rates, we would see exactly what that was going to do to the number of children served. And then, and only then, should we be talking about increasing the eligibility threshold. Because I'm challenged to look at families when we're not serving 100% of the eligible population. And we know that number is an exception. It would be an exceptionally high dollar amount in order to do that. When we know that, how do we expand eligibility to a new group of families when we're not serving those that we are currently obligated to serve well? And that's what I would like to really see us get accomplished this next year too. I guess unfinished business does kind of go with priorities. And so I do have priorities for this upcoming session, in addition to some of the things that we just talked about, would be for us to really look at, we shouldn't be afraid of making changes or tweaks to the laws that we have passed. Not an overhaul, not just a full sale, we think it didn't work, and so we're going to start over again. But what is working in the implementation of 419? What have we come to learn through the implementation of class as a tool to understand what quality looks like in a classroom? What have we learned? And I think we've learned that the instructional support component is probably the most indicative of success for children. And so what are we doing to kind of hold up that instructional support component of the class assessment? How are we supporting our teachers so that they can focus on the components that make a great classroom, that help children thrive? I think that we need to also make sure that we're really addressing the needs of our children in the way that we assess. And what does that look like? What does administration of the progress monitoring tool look like in a 4-year-old classroom? How developmentally appropriate is it? And is it happening in a way in which we are really capturing information about whether or not where a child is? Are we relaying that information to parents in a productive way? I mean, it was always the intention, and I know we hear intention all the time, and we try to get the words on the page and in the statute to line up with that intention. But implementation is where sometimes things go sideways. Well, if they are because somebody feels constrained by the words on the page, let's work it out. Let's see what it looks like in real time with young children, and whether or not we are really informing instruction, or are we engaging with parents in a way that is helping them understand where their child should be developmentally and how they can help them move to the next step, especially in the way in which they learn and read and understand numeracy and things like that. And so I think that we have to be focused on, what's working, what's not, and we need to fix it in real time as opposed to being subject to just a session schedule in which we put something on the shelf as soon as we're done and we come back to it and expect to see changes. And really my hope is that we are going to see the children that we are investing in right now have just outstanding reading rates in third grade, because we have made the case for and we've implemented programs that make a difference. And I don't want us to set cut scores in places that don't prioritize every child, right? It's okay to not hit the mark sometimes, but the only way we can continue to try and reach more children and make a difference in their lives is if we really know what we're doing on the ground, in the classroom, and what is making a difference. And if we aren't willing to really look at the data and assess it and assess the policy that goes with it, then we are not meeting our obligation to the children that we serve. Oh, well, I will always take the opportunity to talk about how my family inspires me. And they certainly do. Sebastian will be 3 on December 1st. And he's kept me very connected to this early learning space with a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. They get older so quickly. You start to move through a whole different set of challenges. Adolescence is real, and it's been a lot for this mom to really understand how to move through that. I think, and my mom used to always say something to me. She would say, I'm one of 8, and she would say, little kids, little problems, and big kids, big problems. And they're not that the problems are big, but they're more complicated because they're influenced so much more by the world around them. And when children are small, you see why, and our young children, you see why if you are able to keep the stress of the world away from them, they can thrive in a totally different way. And Sebastian shows us that all the time. And I say to my middle son, I said, you just smile. When you look at him, smile, realize that the simplicity of what he needs from you right now is it should be refreshing, because it takes away the stress of the things that adult life bring. And I think that if we can all approach it through that lens and the way that we work with children and talk to children and that high expectation of young children, I mean, Sebastian's ability to distill the world around him, it constantly amazes me, his takeaway, constantly. And it's still, as much as I know and believe in the capability of young children, it still takes my breath away when I hear him lay out certain concepts and an understanding of the world around him. And so, yes, every day, that part of our family and Sebastian's addition to our family has also, I think, inspired my older children to really think about how they interact with young children. And I think that it will influence the way in which their parents when they get older too, which is really, it's such a blessing, such a blessing. No, for sure. I appreciate that. And yes, for all of you who are in the classroom with young children every day, God bless you, because what an amazing gift that you give to them of your time and your energy. And as a mom of 3, I'm always just amazed at the energy part of that, because young children are a lot. Are a lot of work. They're a lot of work from the aspect of, they have so many questions, and when you stop and answer them, you realize how much you're providing to them at that time. But answering that many questions, especially of a 2-year-old or 1-year-old or 2-year-old, 3-year-old, it can take so much out of you. And sometimes you feel like you answer it a million times. But know that you are just contributing to their growth in such an amazing way. And hopefully you feel the support of the parents in families that you serve. And I thank you for continuing the work in this space, and will do what I can in order to hold it up as truly the gift that it is to our society of people who are willing to serve young children and make sure that they are set up for success as they get ready to move into K-12 school. And I think that success in early childhood can really change the future of our country, and know that you're doing that work, and I'm grateful for it.